Hey yo, it's Lionheart. This is going to be my final thoughts on Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Would have done this a little while ago, but after Odyssey, I ended up playing Assassin's Creed Unity, Liberations, Assassin's Creed 3 Remaster. Then I started to play the Tyranny of George Washington expansion from 3, and that had quite a few bugs and glitches, and it started pissing me off because it was a little too consistent. Enough that I was getting pretty angry. I was like, this shit, motherfuckers, couldn't fix this, and this is a part of the attachment for the remaster, and you motherfucker, like, really? So I was like, you know what, I still need to do the final thoughts for Odyssey. I'll probably do a review for Unity and that. I was like, let's get those done. Fuck this George Washington DLC bullshit. Alright, so that said, let's get into Odyssey here. As you can see, the outfit I'm wearing is, obviously, it's a transmog. So let me go into that. Take this off real quick. This is the gear, the outfit. You get this in the Fate of Atlantis. I think it's either episode 1 or episode 3. Near the end. I don't exactly remember. It's one of those ordeals. But this outfit is kind of the best with the stats and the abilities it has. This outfit you get in Fate of Atlantis episode 2. As you can see right there, can pass through the whatever, I can't pronounce that, veil. This outfit together is a key. Without it fully, you cannot pass through the doors, the veil. You need to. So it's a little bit of a mechanic. It's cool. I liked it. It was something different. And the whole veil ordeal in that part of the DLC kind of reminded me, honestly, of Dark Souls. Obviously, the outfit you get once you beat base game complete. And last, this is the outfit you get once you finish the Legacy of the First Blade. Spoiler incoming. 3, 2, 1. This is his father-in-law outfit. Yep, his father-in-law outfit. If you've looked at the achievements, you see something about continuing the bloodline. Yep, there it is. This transmog you get, I believe it's at the end of the Legacy of the First Blade, because you get a cutscene. It's either at the end of Legacy of the First Blade or it's at the end of the epilogue. I don't exactly remember which one. No, it might be the epilogue. Either way, you get it at the end of one of those two. I like this outfit because he kind of looks like a Greek Raiden. Stupid. These two little weapons, you get at the end of Fate of Atlantis. The island I'm on is actually part of the epilogue, where Alexios takes a vacation and kind of just goes away from everything and everyone. He's like, fuck this, I'm taking a break. So his second in command and the lieutenant are like, dude, you should really get back out there. And the guy's like, I need to make some money. And it turns into a side quest with a couple of interesting little stories. And then it pretty much wraps up. It's a decent enough island to do stuff on. I mean, it's not that big compared to the actual world map, regular game. This is where you need that gear set that acts like a key. There's certain areas you need to get into. You can't without that outfit. So now discussing the maps. The maps in this game are pretty big. Base map is pretty... Oh, wrong button. Pretty huge. As you can see, I mean, they call it Odyssey. You're on a journey, exploring, going on one hell of an expedition for the quest, the main story, and a couple side stories, the way it jumps around. So it's a hell of an experience, hence probably the title of the name, Odyssey. Besides the play on words with the Greek concept of Odyssey and the story of Odysseus. And then you have, this is episode 1 for Fate of Atlantis, episode 2, episode 3. In the other videos I've shown the actual maps of these and a little bit of terrain, so you can watch those, check those out. I will say Elysium is probably my favorite overall. Aesthetically, with the volumetric probe, the lighting effect, the colors. It's just a really beautiful looking map. Then probably then probably Realm of Atlantis, that would be second. Then probably Korif. And then finally the Underworld, last. Now, a lot of the maps has a lot of filler content, as you can see. Get into a little bit of that here in a moment. But the story takes place, it starts off in Capliona, then you kind of work your way through, you have to travel. The story's kind of like A1, A2, A3, B, B1, B2, B3, C, C1, alternate C, alternate C2, C1, alternate B, alternate B1, A4, A5, B2, B3, alternate C6. It's just the way it kind of shuffles around and forces you to travel. You're kind of all over the place. And then some of the side stories are specific to the regions that they're in. So you don't really have to travel too much for some of those, actually. With the exception of the ones on some of these islands. They do kind of shuffle you around a little bit. But for most of the ones, it's like, you know, island to island. Something like that. Now the one down here, I mean, yeah, there's a side story that takes place here, and then you have to go over here. Or one, you know, there's something up here that forces you to go over here. Other than that, the islands, it kind of keeps it confined decently. And then you have the main reason too why the story shuffles around a little bit is you have to hunt all these people down. They're the cult leaders. Now some of them are in charge of certain sections. Like what would be some of these Paul March or the captains are actually cult leaders. And some of them are the leaders of the villages. So, I mean, there's a little bit of reason, but then some of them are just random, searching throughout the world. Some of them are actually the mercenaries, too, you come across. As you can see, I'm in the last tier. I wanna become top dog, so I'm gonna have to grind that out a little bit at some point, just so I get it. Or New Game Plus. But some of the cult leaders are actually the mercenaries, the bounty hunters. And when you're playing, especially in the very beginning of this game, the system, while it's fun, is challenging because it will kick you in the dick. Because when you get a wanted level, you know, reference GTA's wanted level, you know, you got 1 star, 1, 2, you get like a bounty hunter or 2, but if you got like 3, level 4, max, all the bounty hunters that spawn in that region, let's say there's like 10 specific to this region, they will spawn, and it will be back to back. Sometimes you'll end up with 4 on your ass, 4 or 5 on your ass, and as soon as you kill 1 or 2, the next set spawn is already traveling towards you. So when if you're doing like the main important quest line, the main story at first, that gets overwhelming and it gets fucking ridiculous. And it can really fuck you over, especially because the villagers, the NPCs, they will help. They will legitimately help the mercenaries or the soldiers attack your ass. And it can get fucking ridiculous. If you go back and watch a couple of my videos, or the one video for Legacy the First Blade, I think it's might be episode 2. You'll see there's one point where I'm in the village trying to get this woman and rescue her so she can get back to her kids. And the entire village just gets in on it while I'm trying to attack and kill the bad guys. And the guy's holding this person hostage. The village doesn't have a clue what's going on. They just think, oh, this guy's a bad guy. So they jump in to help. And it gets fucking ridiculous to the point it's aggravating. So early on, it's actually kind of important. You might want to grind some of this filler content out to get some gear, level up, and level up the gear at a blacksmith. Otherwise, your ass is going to get got. And you're going to be sitting there going, motherfucker. As you can see, I've been to the blacksmith. That's what that 20% health and armor, I added that. Because most items you can add something to. As you can see, go to the blacksmith to engrave. It gets ridiculous. It gets a little ridiculous. Now, the actual story itself, the beef, is good. I like it. It's just kind of your typical family drama situation. 2 siblings. The whole Sparta situation, myth, folklore that goes along with it. You know, one thinks died, while the other one was claimed to be dead, who ends up getting taken and raised by the cult and turned into a fucking monster demigod who has to be killed and put in their place. I mean, there's choices throughout the game, and some of the choices do reflect, usually instantly, or change some of the dialogue and a couple of the outcomes. But overall, everything pretty much ends just about the same. There's a couple situations within the game where it does it, and it's actually different. Now, I do wish the story would have been a little different. Maybe a little more conflict, focused on the 2 siblings. Like, whether you choose to play as Alexios or Cassandra. Obviously, I'm playing as Alexios. I'm a man, so I'm going to play as man. Plus, I'm in after watching the trailer and seeing, you know, politics at the time when this game first came out. I was like, yeah, I'm cool. I'm going to play as Alexios. Glad I did, because his story is really good. I like his voice acting, his humor. There's times where it's actually good. It breaks some of the monotony of the game, and it reflects pretty well within the situation in the moment, compared to Cassandra, where it's just kind of cold. she comes off like she's trying to be stoic and just kind of typical, like, you know, stern, but it really just comes off being bland and boring. Where it's like, whatever. But I do wish whoever was the sibling that's the monstrous demigod, I wish there would have been a little more conflict. Let's say there was a region or an actual city or two where they think she's a true god, and you have to go discredit her. And that the village would have been a problem trying to discredit her. Like, you have to deal with the village and prove that she is not the demigod or the god she claims to be. Trying to wake the people up. I wish there would have been something along with that and the cultists. That would have made the story a little more interesting instead of just typical run-of-the-mill. Alright, I have to kill these cultists, kill the leader, grind out this fucking repetitive filler content and activities and tasks just to move the story forward. If there would have been a little more story in that regard, I think it would have made it a little more interesting in the family drama part of it, especially with the choice later at the end of the game. Now, there's a couple of choices with the stepbrother and stepfather. Stepfather. Now, if you go the good route and you pick a few choices, they end up not only staying alive, but they become part of your crew. The mother does too. I'll admit, in my first playthrough, I mean, I did get the good, true playthrough. Or the good ending, however you want to phrase it. But I reloaded it to see what the choice would be differently. And, well, Cassandra dies. And 2, mother's dead. Or the mother leaves and abandons you. So, I mean, there is some repercussions there. Hey-oh. But, I mean, some of the choices do reflect in the game. Most of it's usually within the story arc you're playing. And then after that, it just kind of falls into the wayside. You don't really think about it again. Unless you're in a certain area and that person was kind of important. And, or you save that person and, you know, every once in a while you see them, they're like, hey, Alexios, blah, blah, blah. It's something that kind of keeps it, the immersion there, that you did something. But again, the side filler content stuff is just so much. Like, even on some of these little islands, there's stuff. There's a few more side quests, side stories on these little islands, which was kind of cool, so it gives a reason that they're there, they exist. But, I mean, there's just so much. And I think that's where the story itself, the main story, lacks. Because they just expect you to play this, half of it probably through the game, to get gear, level up sufficiently enough to get through the story further. And they probably expect you to finish the rest once you beat the main game. To continue to play as him. That's part of the problem with the hopscotch situation that goes on, because it's just, you're all over the place hopscotching around, and that, I find, it did drag on, and it's kind of like, I just want to get this shit done. So before I really got involved too much in the story, I grinded everything out. And then I went and played the story. And at that point, by the time I got to, I think it's Athens, or Attica, however you fucking pronounce it, the game started leveling with me. I realized it was scaling. Because when you first start off, there are regions and zones where everything's level capped. Like, you see the level capped. You know, there's areas where it's 40, where it's 60, and as soon as you start hitting level 30, 35, 40, that's when you realize the rest of these areas, if you haven't gone to them yet, you haven't made your way to that yet, they start scaling with you. So by the time you're level 50, level 60, the entire world has scaled with you. And that's another thing to take into account for when you're playing and you're leveling and you're doing the main story. It does force, because of the level caps in certain regions, it does force you to grind up until a certain point before you're allowed to move on. Unless you're really good at the combat and you can grind the fights out. You know, that's dope for you, but the rest of us, you're kind of stuck leveling up a little bit and spending time on that filler content. So in some areas, while the story lacks for the main, it does make up the slack and the entertainment for the side stories. There's some interesting side stories and side quests, a few chain quest lines that are actually pretty entertaining and pretty fun. A couple of them, one of them deals with, I think his name is Marcos, basically the guy who helps raise you after the situation in the prologue of the game, the opener. What happens with him, where he travels, and how he ends up. That's a bit entertaining, having to clean up some of his mess. That fucking dickhead. There's another quest line with a poet, and dealing with her and her situation, you find out she abandoned her family so she can live as a poet. It's like, damn, that's kind of cold. What a bitch. There's another quest line where a chick is a healer. She needs help. You end up helping her out. There's quite a few memorable ones, but because I crammed so much other Assassin's Creed games, I am kind of having a little trouble reflecting on some of them. But as you play this, and if you're really only playing this, you'll start to realize what quest lines are pretty cool. There was one quest line that dealt with these priestesses and having to get them to not only trust you, but also figure out who's behind what and what's causing the problem in the situation. That was actually pretty interesting. There's also a quest line with this pirate lady and trying to help her out, and as a result, she tells you where your mother went, so then you gotta go follow that lead for the main story. But if you continue the side story with the pirate lady, you end up actually kind of becoming her bitch for a little bit and helping her track down treasures and turn shit in. But there's also some interesting, like, mutiny going on, so you could squell that and squash that out. There's some interesting things to pick up along the way where it slacks for the main, so it makes the journey, the experience of actually traveling the world, a little more enjoyable, a little more thought-provoking with some of the quest lines. Keeps you entertained, but overall, I mean, it does lack at times. Instead of focusing on the filler crap or even the side stuff, if they would have made the conflict between the siblings a little more sibling rivalry and also a little more tension based, I think the main story could have been a lot better in that regard. Now the ship combat, in my opinion, is some of the best in the franchise. Assassin's Creed 3 is when I think it started. I could be wrong. I haven't played 2 Brotherhood or Revelations in quite a long while. But having just replayed Assassin's Creed 3, remastering that again, playing the ship battles and that, those are fun. They're good. But there's times where the camera angle will fuck you, and it's a pain in the ass. Get on the ship here in a moment. Ran the wrong way. Shit. Like there's times where somebody's on the bow, the stern, or the starport, and like there's a ship incoming, and it cuts to this fancy little camera angle for a cinematic moment. It's like, "Hey, Captain, you got the bastard off to the side of the starboard at Port Harbor. You need to get him. They're coming in, we could see him." And then, it's cool, I get it. They're trying to make a cinematic moment and make you feel like, it's a ship battle, but there's times where it's just too much. Especially when there's multiple ships, and like you kill one and then you're X amount of meters away. And then you get close to the other one and it does it again. And sometimes the camera gets a little glitchy and it stays like that. And when it stays like that, it fucks you until you get hit and or die. If you die and then you just respawn, you have to redo it. And sometimes it's the worst freaking moments, and it's more annoying than anything else. But like the ship battles, the ship mechanic, I think in this one is the most fluid it's been in the entire franchise. It feels really good. Even the sound design when you're traveling the ocean and the waters.
Commander leading the helm!
I had some of the best I've heard in some games, to be honest. First time I realized it, I was like, oh shit, that's amazing. There's a ship that's safe enough I can fuck up. So I haven't spent too much time on the ship battle presentation.
Growing speed! Ready to shoot! Let's go! Action! Everyone to battle positions! Loose! Get board!
I don't have my special
Sails
field
up!
yet, so I can't shoot.
Arrows at the ready! Brace! Release them!
This you get from Legacy the first play. That shit is fun every time. I don't give a fuck. I'm a pyromaniac, and you know that is freaking awesome.
Get them! Balls ready!
It's been a minute. Yeah, this is some of the most fluid games. I like the control scheme.
We need to move before they hit us! When hit, there's fight! We'll need repairs after this!
Archers! Take your marks!
Commander, we need to stay out of the path!
Archers! Get ready to fire! On! Ramming speed! Increase speed!
But the ship battles are really fun. It can get pretty intense, especially with some of the mercenaries, the cult leaders, are on the seas on certain boats. And you won't know it until like you see the icon pop above the ship. And then if you're in a really heavily trafficked spot where there's a bunch of boats, it can get kind of intense. And if you don't have your ship upgraded, you're kind of fucked. As you can see, I'm pretty upgraded. I grinded a good portion of this out before I got to the main story. Even like halfway through the filler content, I had a good portion of this gold. And as you can see, it takes quite a bit to level this shit up. So a lot of the gear you get, you really need to decide, is it good? Is it worth upgrading? Most of it is not. So you're going to want to end up just breaking it down for mats. Because you can buy mats too off the blacksmith. And if I were to sell it, I mean, you see right there, 1551, 1184, 1450. It adds up, and because of how big this freaking map is, with how much filler content and doing these conquest modes, you get gear, and you can redo these areas a couple times over. Because some of you, if you do it the way I played this game, doing the filler content first and then doing the story, you're going to do some of these forts twice. And that's okay, because you find more gear again. Now, there are certain chests that don't respawn, but like, when you kill these guys, they have gear, so you get more gear again. And sometimes, when you go back and they've leveled up, you get the same gear, but it's higher. It's a higher grade, higher stats. So then you can either break that down or sell it for more money. Just depends on you and like what you like and how your play style is. So, and grinding that out will get you the gold, to the gold status. Now the actual gold coin to do it, that's where selling a lot of the shit comes into play, and doing a lot of the quest lines and side stories. It's a lot, but once you get to the gold stats, or at least purple, epic, like, ship battles will be a lot easier too. You'll have a lot more fun. Now, you know, the set design, I mean, the worlds, I like the worlds. They're pretty, it's what you would expect of the Mediterranean Greek world. Just like with the folklore, the heaven, hell, and the vacation spot. I mean, it is what you expect, and Atlantis is pretty wild looking. You know, maybe I'll load into Atlantis real quick.
Oars down!
Here's Atlantis. Like the way they designed the entire world, each of the world maps, and just the levels in general, is good. Like, there's, I mean, it's generic to the stance of the theme. It's what you would expect to a degree. Atlantis, maybe not so much. But overall, I mean, it's themed how you would expect it. And they do a good job. I mean, it is, again, it's generic in the stance that it is what you would expect. But at least it's nice, aesthetically looking, and the colors and everything kind of, it goes well together. There's some sort of actual thought in the art in creating the game and the world for the environment. The music in the game's good too. It's what you would expect. It sounds good. It sounds great. There's moments where the battle kicks in and it does pick up a little bit, and then as soon as it's done, you're just back to kind of exploring. It tapers off. More aesthetic, atmospheric again, which is pretty nice. I will say though, there is areas in the world where it's kind of hilarious, and it's more of the base game than anything else. But there'll be a section where you're just walking, and all of a sudden, like, you'll see something like this, or this pillar, and it's actually a few feet off the ground. Nothing under it, nothing really around it. But you could just see there's something wrong with the wireframe and the setting where it was trying to snap into place. It's an oversight. It's a giant oversight. So when you see it, you fucking see it. One of them is, it's on one of the small islands in the base game. It's when you're helping this witch or priestess who knows your mom. You're trying to get information. And you gotta do a little side story for her and help her out. But the little island where she's on, in like this little reservoir statue area, as you're coming down the steps and off to the side and leaving the little fort, broken fort, you see the rock and the terrain and the pillar. And like where that crown is, like this little thing right here, Like it's that high off the ground. So then from like here to there, there's nothing. It's just empty space, and it's kind of clipping. And there's a little terrain, a little vegetation that's part of the design, but it's bleeding. So all you see is this weird empty space where that is supposed to be there, but it's not. And I don't know what happened. Maybe as they were snapping and putting the shit into place, they didn't realize it. But my question is, how did they not realize it when they were going and putting the character there and spawning the animals there to be spawned there, placing the spawners for the respawns? Like, how did they miss that? That I do question some of the oversights like that you come across in the region, because it's like, you had to put a spawner here and a respawn here. What? Like, was this AI? Was this just some oversight that was just completely missed? Like, what the fuck? I will say though too as well, this game, when you play the story, because especially with Legacy the First Blade, and you find out about the origin, the bloodline, doing that achievement and that, the way I understand it, Odyssey truly is the first game in the franchise. And then it's Origins. Then I think it's... I think it's Mirage. And so forth. Valhalla. I forget. I did look it up. It's been probably like 2 months, 2.5 months since I looked it up. But Ezio is Alexios is the starting point with the bloodline. Which also makes me wonder about the whole Templar thing with the sages. When you're playing, because a little bit of that is discussed in Lineage 3 and in Assassin's Creed Rogue. There's a thing with the sages that are brought up, and that's more with the Templars, which is interesting. But if I were to compare Origins and Odyssey, since they were initially the start for the reboot of the franchise for this kind of playstyle, these games are good. If you were to, like I said, if you were to take out the Assassin's Creed part, the Animus part, and just have these worlds, these heavens and hells, these realms, and just focus on the mythos, the actual characters themselves, this would be pretty good, flushed, standard like action adventures. Because there's just enough RPG where it's a light RPG, but not enough to where it's actually like, shit, I gotta really think about what I'm doing. So it's definitely action adventures. More of a watered down Skyrim, if you think of it. Skyrim's kind of watered down to begin with. But it's even more watered down than Skyrim. Essentially is what these games are. They definitely could have been better. Like I said, the story, especially the main beef of the story, was more my gripe. I wish there was more involved in that. Maybe a little more involving the conflict, like I said, with the siblings, and maybe some of the strife with the mother when you come across her. There's a few good moments, especially when you first meet up. It's kind of like, oh, that's pretty nice. And then it kind of wavers after a little bit until you gotta meet up again and you gotta follow the quest line. As far as bugs and glitches go, there wasn't really that many I came across that I had. Now, I didn't play this when this first came out on computer. I had it, but I played years later. So at that point, I'm sure there was quite a few updates done, and that there may have been problems for people. I'm not exactly sure. But as far as my experiences go, there were some of the AI pathing with the enemies, and then finding you was a little like ridiculous. The enemy looking this direction, and you're over here just kind of casually sneaking up. And I'm like, before you get to this point, the dickhead over here looking over here all of a sudden snaps and just starts shooting you. It's like, well, what the fuck? Dude, like, I didn't do anything. I didn't even make a sound. I'm wearing gear that, like, makes my sound a lot less. What the fuck? Or there's times where, like, the character will just keep walking into an object like this. I mean, I have a short on the channel. If you go look at that, you can see the character just walking up against the tent, and then he's trying to climb the tent. Then he drops, and goes back, and then he does this again. Does it a few times over. So there's some of that. That definitely does happen. And as far as the game crashing, the only time this game crashed, really, is when I was windowing in and out. Whether it was windowing to do a podcast, listen to one, have that playing in the background, or when I was just really wanting to listen to some metal or some other kind of music. Especially while I was grinding the filler content out. Yeah, if I windowed too much or idled for too long and went back and forth, the game crashed. But even then, it was only, I think, like 2 or 3 times. I was actually kind of impressed by that. Same thing with Origins. It really didn't crash like that either. So that was actually kind of nice, to be quite frank. One thing I do kind of find funny is Assassin's Creed Odyssey, the studio branch that made this game, also made Shadows. And there is some controversy with that studio branch. Some members, some people left, some people I think were fired. But there was a bit of controversy. And I do kind of find it interesting that they put out this game, did really well. A lot of people loved it. A lot of people gave it a good rating. And then a couple years later, shortly after, they put out Shadows. Well, you can obviously tell the good people left, or were forced out, or were alienated out. Either way, you could tell they weren't a part of that studio branch no more, because what Shadows is and what it became. My overall rating for this game, I'd give it an 8. I'd give it an honest 8. It's like I said earlier, it could be better, especially with the story, and focus a little bit more on the siblings, the conflict, the cult. Maybe a little bit more on some of the cult members. Even a couple of the ones that are a little more maniacal, malicious, vindictive, and evil. But it doesn't exactly go into that. That would have built a little more backbone, a little more suspense, a little more intrigue into the members, or at least some of the personality for the members of the cult, and how they cultivated Cassandra into becoming like the demigod member of the cult. And there's just a hell of a lot of filler content. I'm fine with some grind in that, but there's just so much in this game. And then it's an Assassin's Creed game on top of that. Assassin's Creed's more about the story, the exploration to a degree, not just kind of journeying through and then just doing a bunch of filler content. So, I mean, I would give this an honest 8. There is a couple surprising boss fights in this game I was not expecting. One is here. Another one, if I remember correctly, where was it? I think it's here? No, that's not it. Where is it? This one. That one. So, I mean, you saw the name. So, it is that. You fight 2 Cyclopses. Plus, there's a boss fight with Medusa. There's also a boss fight you can avoid if you answer the riddle correctly, which it's pretty simple. I don't see how anyone can really fuck that up unless you're not paying attention and or heard a riddle like that before. But there's been plenty of games in the last 10 years that's had a few riddles or just story and dialogue with that kind of construction about life, death, man being born, living, breathing, you know, going through life, blah, blah, blah. That puzzle was pretty easy to do. Like, I don't see how anybody would have screwed that riddle up. Price point, I would say, for the base game, if you just want a decent action RPG, $10. Game on sale for $10 or less, for sure. If you're an Assassin's Creed fan and you want the full-fledged experience, getting this game complete, which would be the Gold Edition or the Season Pass Edition, you'd have to read the fine print when you're going to purchase. Maybe $25. 30 would be pushing it. I personally would say it's been out for a while, so I would wait for a sale to where it's on maybe 10 or $15. Then it would be worth getting. Really, anything higher than 25 is kind of pushing it, especially for a game that's been out since what, 2018. Almost pushing. It's getting up there close to 10 years now. It's a fun game. Combat's fun. Ship battles are fun, but overall, my rating's an 8. Price point, like I said, base game, $10 or less. $5 would be perfect. Complete package, 15, 20 tops. I would recommend it. Like I said, if you're into action RPGs and just want decent story, a game that's gonna have some grind and just kind of get lost in, yeah, this game would probably be for you. If you're an Assassin's Creed fan and you're looking for a story about the first civilization, some backstory with Juno Minavera and what led up to some of the events and some of the shit going on in the background around their timestamp, you do find out a little bit about that in this game. So they do touch up on that. Not enough to really please you, but enough, especially within the Fate of the Atlantis DLC, to kind of tie up some loose ends, tie up some knots, and kind of fill some plot holes from the previous titles. But not a huge piece of beef to really satisfy you and make you go, oh man, now I really see the big picture. But, you know, a decent couple of strips of beef to make, you know, kind of please you and go, alright, I kind of see and understand a few things better now. This has pretty much been my final thoughts for Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Eventually I'll play this again, pick out some different choices, do a few different things. But for now, this has been Lionheart. This has been my little memoir to Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Thanks for watching. Peace.